Hi, this is Bruce Kirsch. Welcome to Valuate. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the detail load mode for getting cash flows into your analysis in the new file creation flow. So I'm going to go to File, New File, and the modal comes up here, and I'm going to toggle it from Quick Load to Detail Load, and I'll go ahead and enter in a property name and a property type, square footage, and a purchase price. So now I need to enter in my cash flows, and in order to get to the cash flows I need to first download a generic form of an Excel template, and I need to get my cash flows into that generic form prior to pasting them in to this box. So I'm going to click on this button here to download the Excel file that I need. And once I launch that Excel file, which I'll just pull up here, I will see that I have 4 tabs in this file. The first is the Instructions tab. The second, Copy Paste if you have year 1 only values. The third, Copy Paste if you have annual values. And the fourth, Copy Paste if you have monthly values. Let's use this first one as our example, and let's assume that we have in mind a year 1 effective gross revenue and a year 1 operating expense amount. Okay, and so let's go ahead and enter in some values here. So in this gray section at the top, each column in the gray section represents 1 year, and so row 6 is effective gross revenue. I'm going to put in effective gross revenue of $975,000 and total operating expenses of $621,000. And let's say that in year 2 I anticipate leasing up an additional 3,000 square feet of this property at a rent of $30 a foot. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to provide TIs of $18 and leasing commissions of $4 per square foot. And so those capital costs show up here in the yellow bar. And let's go ahead and grow this net operating income at a 3% rate. And so what you might have noticed is as I was making these inputs in the blue font cells, this blue shaded area down here was populating itself in real time. And so now what I want to do, now that I have this projected data, I'm going to copy this entire blue shaded area onto my clipboard. Toggle back to Valuate, and then click in this box where it says Paste Monthly Unlevered Cash Flow Projections, and do Control V as in Victor to paste, and hit Tab. The Submit button becomes active, and now I can click Submit. And at this point I have my cash flow projection loaded in to Valuate. And so now I can go to the cash flow screen, and I'll see that the cash flows that I've loaded in are here. And I'm ready to perform the rest of my analysis by altering inputs as I would like. Now, what if I have an existing Excel spreadsheet? So I don't want to create an analysis in this generic template because I already have a file that I want to import the values into Valuate. So I've just pulled up another file here, and let's say I've got my an annual projection here. It's already done, and I want to get these values into Valuate. So essentially what we need to do is we need to map data from this existing spreadsheet for 3 main line items into Valuate. The first is the effective gross revenue line, or EGI. The second is the total operating expenses, real estate taxes, and reserves. And the third is the total capital and leasing costs. And so essentially what I can do is I can either link to this existing file, or I can import this tab into the generic file. Either one will get the job done. So let's go back to the generic file and let's go to the second option here, which is copy paste if you have annuals. And that's what I have. I have annuals. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to map those values into this gray section. The blue section will auto-populate on a straight-lined basis. These are monthlies. The blues are monthlies. And so those will auto-populate on a straight-line basis. And then once I have the lines mapped in, I simply copy and paste the blue back into Valuate like we just did before. Okay, so for effective gross revenue for year one, I'm going to point to that amount in my model and hit enter. And so you'll notice these values here have auto-populated. And the one thing that I want to do before I proceed is I want to unanchor the grid coordinate reference here. Excel automatically anchored that by putting dollar signs in front of the P and the 29, which are the grid coordinates of the year one EGR in the other spreadsheet file. And so I'm just going to click in the formula bar here and delete out or backspace out those dollar signs, which are anchor notation. And once I do that, then I can copy and paste my projection over. Okay, and then I'll do the same for operating expenses. Now, the note here says that this value for operating expenses must be shown as positive. And so in my other model, it's negative, and so I'll put a negative sign here to switch it to positive. And then once again, I'll make sure that I delete out those dollar signs. And now I can copy and paste it across. And I'll do the same for the total capital and leasing costs. And I'll make sure that I put a negative sign up front here as well, and also delete out these dollar signs and copy and paste across. Okay, and so now I've got my projection, which is being reflected here. And so simply copy this entire blue area, which are the monthlies that are equivalent to those annuals, toggle back to Valuate. And now if I wanted to, for instance, replace the original set of cash flows that I had, I can paste them into this box here and then click Process Cash Flow. And so we'll notice these values are going to change here. Okay, month one, 81,250 and 51,750, and let's process the cash flow and see how those change. And so we see that these values are now updated to that new cash flow. And so again, I can now proceed and complete my analysis.